Last week, we started the first permanent deployment here in North Etobicoke of body-worn cameras on frontline officers, some of whom you can meet today. And we're excited about this program because we believe it will allow for increased transparency, accountability, and a digital program that will allow for better efficiencies in terms of both officers' time and the release of digital evidence. So the cameras allow for increased accountability because they are objective. They record what is happening in the moment on both sides. And this allows us to see what an officer is going through, which will allow for increased accountability from everything from discipline to also seeing when officers do good work and do the right thing. In addition, more than 90% of the Toronto citizens have said that they want body-worn cameras, and we've done extensive consultation on this. And it does allow for citizens, when they want to make a vexatious complaint, and we don't see it often, but we do see it sometimes, and this will help with that as well. At the end of the day, it's an objective measure to show what happened in that moment. So we just started here last week at 23 Division. They're being rolled out to frontline officers first across the city. What that means is by the fall of 2021, we will have approximately 2,350 officers right across the city who are deployed with body-worn cameras.
And so is it all the officers of 23 Division have them now?
No, currently we're one shift in. Within the next 2 weeks, all of the shifts here at 23 Division will have body-worn cameras. There's an extensive training component to this, so it's not quite as simple as just giving out a camera. We want to make sure that officers have the appropriate training, including on the privacy issues and the extensive governance we've put in place to deal with it. Actually, we can show you this after, but these particular cameras, first of all, they're state-of-the-art, brand new. We definitely believe that they're the best in the world because we did an international procurement process. We were the first in Canada to do that. But the handle in which it goes onto the vest, which we can show you after, was actually designed by one of our sergeants, Sergeant Sean O'Brien, who's here today as well. And it actually goes right over the Velcro piece, so it's very difficult to come off. We always work with the SIU to have evidence moved over to them as quickly as possible. We've had extensive discussions with them. Our governance has been put in place with discussions with the SIU, the OIPRD, the Information and Privacy Commissioner, the Ontario Human Rights Commission. So we've done extensive consultation on this. Some of it is going to be worked out as we go along, but I can assure you that the release of the body-worn camera footage will happen to the SIU as soon as possible. So the difference between Canada and the US, because I think a lot of people expect what they see in the US, which is in some places it gets released right away. Here in Canada, we can't do that because of the privacy rights of the person who is on the video, the citizen that's being recorded. So we will always look at it to see if it's appropriate, but it would only happen under very narrow, exigent circumstances. So the cameras are turned on the way to a call. The governance is extensive because there are a lot of situations where it is appropriate to turn a camera off. Think about when you're dealing with a victim. Sometimes we show up to calls and people are partially naked. Sometimes people don't want to be filmed and it might be a sensitive situation. Sometimes children are involved. So it's highly contextual. We have to think about what's happening in that moment. And for those reasons, there are times when an officer can turn the camera off. But we will examine those situations as they come up. We know when legally it's permissible and when it's not. And we've built into our governance that if you turn a camera off when you shouldn't have, an officer will lose an automatic penalty of 1 day as a minimum standard. If they're a supervisor, it's a minimum of 2 days.
So there's some accountability measures in place for those cameras to be turned on or off?
Yes, and in fact there's an automatic auditing feature with the technology itself so that supervisors can look at when a camera was turned off and immediately go back and look at that situation and see whether or not that made sense and was appropriate. It's $34 million for 5 years plus an extension of 1 year. But I want to be clear that that's not just the camera. That in fact includes digital storage. It also includes evidence.com so that our ability to move evidence digitally from the service over to the courts will be done in a much more efficient manner. There's other opportunities for efficiencies there, such as automatic transcription, as well as things like digital notebooks in the future. So we're really looking at a broader digital platform with that price tag. I think anything that improves accountability is really important, and I think people, generally speaking, want it. It's not the be-all and end-all. No one's ever said it is. We have a lot of work to do with respect to systemic issues. This is one piece, one measure of accountability of a much broader transformation platform that we're working on with the service. It's very similar to what we do already with our microphones. As soon as possible in that situation, an officer will explain to the person that they're interacting with that they are being filmed on body-worn camera. So the citizen will know. In addition, one of the things that you can look at today is there is a light on the camera. Today in the sun it would be difficult to see, but many of our interactions are in the evenings and at night, and you would see that the light is on the camera, which would allow you to also know. But the citizen will be told as soon as practical in that situation. The access is extremely secure. There are protocols in place for who can access it, similar to any other type of evidence. In fact, it's cloud-based, not server-based. So this is, again, another transformation for the service. It's exciting, it's new for us. It depends on the circumstance, but not other officers. So it's like I said, supervisors can review it as an auditing feature to make sure whether or not the camera should have been turned off or not. For example, professional standards could review it, but there are very strict protocols in place. It's not that anyone can view it. Yeah, there's a lot of efficiencies with respect to moving to a digital platform. So when officers arrive at a call, and this still is happening now, it's going to take us time to get to where we want to be, but you take out a notebook and you physically write in your notebook, as you well know. Then when you get to court, you know, those notes have to be entered into evidence. There's a lot of discussion on the stand, whether they're accurate or not, were they made immediately after the event, during the event, how well is your memory in regard to having made those notes. This platform allows us to actually, you could tag people, you can put notes in the platform at certain time frames. So, and it's automatic, and you can't change it, right? So you know that it happened at that time, and there's no arguing over whether or not that's correct or not. Sometimes it's not even an issue of it being correct in terms of when things happened or not. It's your memory. So as I said, it's an objective measure, and us being able to move to that kind of a standard, to move to a standard where things that happen on video are automatically inputted into the case itself, is going to save huge court time in the long run. It's also going to save time with respect to professional standards investigations. We've already seen this with respect to in-car camera. You know, again, there's an objective, you know, review of the event that you can see, you can watch. Yes, the buffer is currently 30 seconds. So when you turn the camera on, it goes back 30 seconds in time. This is consistent with our in-car camera as well.
Is it just 23 division where officers are wearing them right now?
Right now, yes. We will start deployment with other stations approximately a month from now. We just need to make sure that all of the processes in place in the back end are working efficiently before we start a more aggressive rollout.